Allah will make your path to Jannah easy. Allah will make your path to Jannah easy.
تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور.
Sheikh, why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention forgiveness first before He mentions the reward which comes after?
Yes, so Allah tells us that He will free people from Jahannam, firstly by forgiving them, and then He will give them the greatest of rewards, ajrun kabir, which is Jannah.
Okay, Sheikh, so as it pertains to the people of Jahannam,
yes,
does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention it in the opposite way?
Yes, so Allah compares what the people of Jahannam said about the people of Jannah, that you are in dalalin kabir, you are greatly misguided. So Allah corrected the people of Jahannam by saying, no, the people of Jannah, they have ajrun kabir, they have the greatest of rewards.
وَسَارِعُوا إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِّن رَّبِّكُمْ وَجَنَّةٍ عَرْضُهَا السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ.
So in hoping for rewards and looking at our good deeds, does the fact that we do good deeds and that we strive to do good deeds, does that mean for sure, does it necessitate that we're therefore going to be the people of Jannah?
Yes, so we can do as many actions as we like. We can pray as many salahs, read as much Qur'an, do as many fast goers, give as much zakat and charity. But if Allah does not accept it, the reality is we have nothing.
Subhanallah.
In fact, which prophet first built the Kaaba?
Was it Ishaq alayhi salam? Was it Ibrahim alayhi salam? Or was it Adam alayhi salam? What do you think the answer is?
So Allah told the Prophet Ibrahim to build the Kaaba. He's fulfilling what Allah has told him to do. He's going around the Kaaba. He's with his son Ismail. They're putting the bricks in the walls of the Kaaba. And he's making a dua, a specific dua here.
وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَاعِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ وَإِسْمَاعِيلُ رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ.
So he's making a dua that Allah accepts his deeds, okay? And we are much more in need of this dua than the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. And he's only doing what Allah told him to do. So he's fulfilling his obligation, yet he is still asking Allah to accept it. Why? Because our deeds are not automatically accepted. And this is one of the most important lessons that we have from the du'as of the prophets, that our deeds are not automatically accepted. We have to ask Allah to accept our deeds.
Okay, so here's a question.
Yeah.
When we do good deeds,
yes,
right, are we doing them like purely for the sake of the akhirah, or should we also expect to feel different, to feel something inside?
Yes, that's a great question. So we're doing them for the akhirah, but we should have or feel something in our hearts as well. When we read the Qur'an, for example, the Qur'an should have an effect on our hearts.
إنما المؤمنون الذين إذا ذكر الله وجلت قلوبهم وإذا تليت عليهم آياته زادتهم إيمانا وعلى ربهم يتوكلون.
If our hearts don't move when we hear the Qur'an, when we recite the Qur'an, what sins is it that we have committed that prevent the light of the Qur'an from entering into it and for our hearts to change? When was the last time we cried, for example?
Is there something that we can do? Did the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam make a specific dua, for example, for his heart?
Yes, so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Sahih Muslim, he mentioned a beautiful dua. He said, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min qalbin la yakhsha. He said, oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from a heart that is not humble, that is not soft, that does not tremble. Look at the care the Prophet ﷺ had for his own heart.
So this, subhanallah, and the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ making dua for his own heart, that Allah softens it. How do we understand this idea of our hearts being soft and asking for our hearts to be soft in relation to seeking beneficial knowledge?
Yes, so that's a great question. And Ibn Mas'ud has a statement that sums it up. He says that لَيْسَ الْعِلْمُ كَثْرَةُ الْحَدِيثِ إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ خَشْيَةُ اللَّهِ. That ilm, knowledge, it's not just about learning different texts, for example, different hadith. إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ خَشْيَةُ اللَّهِ. That ilm, true knowledge, is that which brings you to fear Allah, to love Allah, to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It leads to our change in our ibadah, in our worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Islam is never just, in one ear, out of the other.
Yeah.
If we sit in a Jummah khutbah, for example, and the Shaykh is telling us something, it says X is haram, for example, and you sit there and you go and do X, that may even come as a witness against you.
SubhanAllah.
So it's always about the knowledge we have. How is it we act upon it? How is it brings us closer to Allah? How is it can increase in our ibadah, in our worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Yeah, you mentioned the knowledge that we have.
Yes.
How do we go about seeking knowledge and learning knowledge? And,
Yes.
do we have to travel abroad? Do we
Yes.
have to, go to these sorts of lengths in order to attain the knowledge that we need?
Yes, that's a great question. And, seeking knowledge can be as simple as sitting at home, listening to a talk on YouTube, attending a class in a masjid, listening to something, a talk in your car. Anything that gets you closer to Allah is a form of seeking knowledge.
So if I can ask you then specifically, right, what was it that prompted you or motivated you to
Yes.
spend time studying, to spend time seeking this knowledge?
So for myself, there was one hadith that always sticks in my mind, a hadith in Sahih Muslim, where the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man salaka tariqan yaltamisu fihi ilma, sahhala Allahu lahu bihi tariqan ila al-jannah." Whoever treads a path of knowledge, meaning you try and you learn a bit more about Islam, being closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will make your path to Jannah easy. Allah will make your path to Jannah easy. And so as we mentioned, a path to Jannah can be, or in terms of seeking knowledge, can be just listening to a talk, attending a class. It's about that intention. We talked about, one's heart. Having that intention of learning to get closer to Allah, this is a characteristic of the people of Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all amongst the people of Jannah.
Ameen.
تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور